believe, an example, the tree is God, and I don't think so. Now we can have a clash of beliefs. What do we do to find out what's true?
That's really the social concept. Take the social, take the group out of me, your subjective opinion, my subjective opinion. What does it mean?
Right. So now what do we need to? How do we get to finding out whether that's God or not? How do we do that?
Who cares? Who cares?
That's
people care because
no, my brother.
no, people care.
About that so much. You laugh about it, but that's a serious point.
It's a serious point, yes.
Because that's how our reality works, doesn't it? Finding out what's true.
Who cares?
Every single human,
I care.
including you, cares.
I care.
Okay, so
you just don't know that you care.
I do care. No. I do care. But let's expand our thing. Let's go beyond this realm of people, politics.
Should we stick with reality? Do you think that's a good idea?
No.
Or should we go outside of reality?
It's the problem is who says that proving something and he's proving something is a valid argument. It just doesn't make any sense.
There's proof.
It just say,
what part doesn't make any sense? The fact that we want to find out what's true.
All of it. Yeah. Here we go. True. Define true. What do you mean by true? We keep saying truth. Define. It's like Muhammad tried to give me truth from his point of view. Give me your truth.
Okay, so my definition of truth, roughly speaking, is that which comports with reality, that which we can physically take in.
Physically taken.
Correct.
So everything that you think is true is physically taken. You are so you are empiricist. That's it. You want to measure. You want to measure it.
That will help me find out what's true. That doesn't mean it's everything. I don't claim that empiricism is the be all and end all, but I do claim that in order to find out whether that's God, we need to investigate that. Correct?
It's just something in this environment, right? In this universe, in this time and space, it's just telling you something, right? But everything is going to be subjective. Like in 100 years from now, we can have a different.
Is gravity subjective? Do you think it works differently for you and me?
It's a law. It's not theory, but it's more factual. I would say more factual, but it's not the truth.
Is it true that gravity exists or not? It's either yes or no, correct? It can't be maybe.
We can experiment 1,000 times, and we can say, by definition, we can define it as gravity. Like when he was trying to tell me about the bus and the boat, we just agree as a social group that this is bus. I can call it boat.
That's a label. Let's use gravity. The thing that keeps us on this planet. Do you think it's absolutely true, or do you think there's any room for disagreement?
Okay, maybe it's a disagreement.
Okay, can you find anywhere?
You know what? If I go further,
gravity's
if I go further,
black hole.
I'm saying here on the Earth, but
if I go further,
gravity is in the black hole, by the way, as well.
Right. So if I go further, you know what you're going to call me? You're going to call me crazy.
Oh, mate,
I go further on this discussion.
On YouTube.
You're going to go outside of reality.
Which one?
In that case, then the bird.
Who is Ra?
Our
Ra with his hand. Or give me your proof.
It was an Islam one, like
but then there's not a rational
Where's the proof?
discussion. If you're crazy, then we can't have a rational discussion.
It only showed the last 20 minutes. It didn't show the 2 hours before.
You know that there's three laws of logic in order for us to have a conversation.
But did you see the other one? Who is the Ra of his
You know
hand?
that.
No,
So if we violate that, then we can't have a rational conversation.
Okay,
So picture me like that with a camera. Who is the Ra of his hand?
Here's the problem. Here's the problem that I have with the atheists. You know, atheists in general. I mean, you are very close to the atheists, right?
I am.
And the other one, I'll do every day of Sunday.
That you are. Okay. Yes.
It's just a
That's
label.
another one. Handmade creation stories every day of Sunday.
They go by
There's no Friday.
by definition and by rational. Then,
No, of course,
So there is no Friday.
then when you talk to them about the existence of God, for example, or a generator or a creator of
You on that page,
everything
you'll see
that
me.
could make
I've got my own channel now, Nature is the Governor.
or all the possibilities.
Nature is the Governor. You'll see my comments on
in
there.
this infinity.
Yeah, the
God
Governor.
infinity.
Nature is the
Okay,
Governor.
go to anybody you want.
Just go down and you'll see the comments and click on me and
It's
add me
something
if you
else.
want.
Okay, but that's not my position. You must ask my position, otherwise you assume.
No, yeah, of course. I'm assuming atheism.
No, but what do you think atheism is? What do you think atheism is?
Atheism, they don't. The atheism, in fact, generally speaking, they don't believe that there's a God, the creator of heaven and earth.
Atheism is the
Atheist.
rejection of theistic claims.
No, not rejection. This is no. Atheism, it's they just don't believe that there is a creator of God. As simple as that.
He's actually closer in the sense of being able to express it. Because yes, I don't believe in a God, but why don't I believe? There's a reason. I didn't just wake up one day and go, do you know what? I don't believe in a God because it makes me feel good. Okay, that's not the reason why I don't believe.
It makes you feel good?
No, I'm saying I didn't wake up one day and go, I don't believe in a God because it makes me feel good. There's a reason why I'm an atheist. And his position is closer in the sense that I reject a God or gods because there's no good evidence or reason, or the burden of proof has not been met in my opinion. That's why I'm an atheist.
And that makes you feel good?
It doesn't make me feel good. Well, in a sense it does, but that's not important. It's not important what makes me feel good. What's important is what's true. There's a difference.
I know, I go so far.
There could be a theistic God.
That was devil's advocate. I didn't see that coming.
Me neither, by the way. It's out of
I know. Yeah. I can be crazy.
There could be a theistic God, and I would be very unhappy if there was one, but I would accept it if there was evidence for it.
Belief is a choice.
But that makes you feel good. At the end, we all need to go by feeling good or not.
No, my friend. No.
So what is it?
You don't go.
Your position.
You cannot be rational.
You can be objective.
Feels good.
You can be objective. Meaning,
even you're not thinking about this, but even you don't go by what feels good in life, do you?
No,
you
I think I go.
What you think is true.
If God
if it
doesn't feel
happens
good
to be
me,
true and you like it, great. If it happens to be true and you don't like it, if you were falling out of a plane, you would not be happy with gravity, but it would still be true. Correct?
Yes, that's
the same for all of us.
Yeah.
So feelings are important. I don't say feelings are not important.
But you accepting that truth makes you happy, makes you comfortable.
It's a result of it. You can do it.
I could be comfortable. Yes, I would be less comfortable if there was a theistic God that had rules as per one of these books. But I would still accept it if the evidence was there. But I would be less comfortable about it. Correct. But that's irrelevant. It's not a point that's of any value.
No.
Me feeling good or not feeling good about something is irrelevant. Me feeling good about that tree being a God or not God is irrelevant.
If I could chime in, for example, like
you're for someone else.
If I could chime in, it's like, for example, you're feeling good because I'm an atheist. So I'd say the fact that you reject these things, like you don't choose to be an atheist. You can't choose to believe. So I couldn't believe in the Bible because or the Quran or anything. And as a product of that, it makes me feel good. I don't do it because I don't choose to believe it because it makes me feel good. It's a product of my belief. Do you know what I mean?
And you feel like you're rational, and therefore that feels good. You could rationalize that, but the feeling part of it isn't useful in this conversation.
Exactly,
We could have a feely conversation, but in order to find truth, we don't go, let me look at this, and if I feel good, it's true. That's not how any human being normally acts, unless they are irrational.
I just have, I think at the end, it's all about what feels.
No, you can do that, but then you're not having a rational conversation.
Maybe I'm wrong.
For example, when I first became...
level, I agree, but in a conversation, for example, in regards to is there a creator or not, I don't think it's all about feeling. The element of feeling comes as a byproduct.
When I first became atheist, I was scared.
I feel good. Is there is a God? I think it's a byproduct.
So there's a fear of related.
I get you.
But I feel good. I feel good by going rational through a process of thoughts that I didn't experiment by myself, but I feel about it. Let's say, for example, not all the books that you read, you went through all the experiment by yourself. You rationalize about it. Then you see this is valid, rational argument, right? But
then you accept certain scientific claims as true.
Accepting is a comfort zone. Yes. Accepting is a comfort zone, isn't it?
To a certain degree.
Right?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I mean that
Am I comfortable in believing what is currently true? Yes.
I accept now atheism or atheist people to talk to them because it's feel good. Even when I'm curious and I'm learning or I'm making the point, it's all about something it triggers in my brain that says, you know what, I'm feeling good.
All I say to anybody yourself,
or I'm going to go
I can't remember your name, I
talk to the Muslims.
Yusuf, is to think critically and rationally, and my observation is that religious people, and I use it as a broad brush, and there could be some who aren't, their bar for looking at it isn't as critical. So in other words, and there was a question that this gentleman asked you when I was filming him that was really relevant. He said, can I still be, he didn't use these words, but it was along the lines of, can I still be Muslim and look into it? as in look into whether Islam's true. Yes, of course you can, but if we look at the psychological makeup, we're all biased. And when we have a belief structure, we are less likely to be critical. So it's probably true even in my case that I'm less likely to be critical of my own beliefs than I am of yours if you were a theist person. And I noticed that with theists, their bar for what's evidence is much lower than mine. So they will accept a level of evidence, quote facts, that are lower than mine because they're already into it. And I include the clever guys here that I've spoken to, and I listen to what they say, who have been here, a couple of guys have been here 20 years, they come and go and they know all the arguments, and I listen to them, I go, the bar for evidence, if you had come here with no knowledge of the religions, would you still believe it? And I don't think they would. Yes. Because they're in it already, so they want to find reasons to back it up.
I'm socially Muslim.
That's the challenge. So you might be a little bit more towards that than not. Maybe.
Of course, and I'm aware of it.
So
yeah, but that's awareness. Here's the point. I mean, from that point of view, that's awareness is giving me like a better position, even socially, right?
Yeah.
Then it's subjective. Then it's going to be subjective. If we want
What is going to be subjective?
My position of being feeling good about being
going back to the feeling good. Your position isn't based on what you feel, is it? Think about it. Your position on whatever topic
what you
isn't
believe.
what you feel.
I think at the bottom of it's good somehow.
It is. Think about that a bit more. You'll probably come to the conclusion it's not. It's based on something you will consider a fact.
What do you think? No, you think it's not about what you feel, right?
No, definitely not. I feel the belief is...
So how come then in this case, let's talk statistics.
Sure.
How come that 90% of people, emotional people, for example, if we agree on the emotional war, like socially, right?
Sure.
They become religious, and for example, 90% of the gays they become atheists. How come?
Well, because
religion rejects it.
With regards to the gays, most religions teach that homosexuality is wrong. Therefore, and a lot of people are religious and gay, but they don't come out as gay.
No, but I'm talking about observation.
Sure. But so basically, if you imagine that religion was spread across the world by sword, and you were forced, for example, let's just say like, if you go to countries, say like Saudi Arabia, and I'm using this, I haven't done any research into it, but I'd say that you're probably going to be Muslim if you're from there, and there'd probably be consequences if you're not. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So people become that. As you go to more Western countries is where you start to see where the freer countries is where people tend to be more atheist. So yeah, of course, because free is connotations. Not to say, because obviously, again, you can't paint things with a brush. Like you have to be very careful. But saying that the more educated, when you went to the gays, the most educated people, or the scientists who are pioneering the advancements, they're all atheists. Do you know what I mean? So
at this point of time.
But in this point of time,
it's really interesting.
Yeah, because I feel as though religion is a thing. Like it was, like, was it necessary? Nah. It was a stepping stone that, like, it gave people like objective moral values, and I'd agree with some of them. I'd agree with other ones. But the thing is, though, is when you give the kind of like the points that you can talk about, and like let's be like, why is killing wrong? Then we can have a discussion about it. But if there's someone like one with an iron fist being like, killing is wrong, or this is wrong, and you shouldn't do that, and you don't have a chance to discuss, then you'd never develop morals. So as we're becoming more open to talk about this, and we have like places such as Speakers' Corners where you can discuss such things, people who like two Muslims might have different worldviews and still branch themselves under the same kind of umbrella.
This gentleman who's essentially a cultural Muslim, calls himself a Muslim, but doesn't pray 5 times a day, might have a drink, might do a few of the things that some of the other devout Muslims will go, hey,
see, this is one thing that, like, and it's not that I don't respect it, because I don't feel that like respect is the word to use, but I believe, let's just say if you're some part Muslim or some part Christian, the one thing you should do is at least read your book, you know, like your Quran or your Bible, or you should read that from start to finish. If you believe that is the word of your God, you should read that. And then why do people pick and choose, and why are they not fundamental about it? Like, I kind of respect a fundamentalist religious person.
And I agree with you, they've had a bad rap. And what is a fundamentalist? All they're doing is following the fundamentals of their religion. That's not a bad thing in the sense that they're following what the book says. So the people who pick and choose, how do they do that?
Exactly.
And now they're in a corner, because in order to pick pick and choose. You've got to do something separate from the book, and that is use your own intellect.
And then a lot of religious people.
What if the book tells you to use your own intellect?
Okay, and if that's the case, I'd love you to show me, because I've heard that from a lot of Muslims, and I really don't know, and I'm not saying it's not the case.
Fair enough.
If somebody can show me in the Quran where the Quran basically says, you as a non-believer, well, it doesn't like non-believers, but let's assume there's something that it says, hey, you the person who's not sure, go and question everything, question whether Allah exists, question whether Muhammad said what he said, and then if you come to the truth, great, you're going to heaven. If it said words to that effect, I'd be going, wow, that's pretty good.
That wording.
No, but it won't say those words, so it will be a bit more obscure than
You would
that.
be happy with that.
But show me what it says, and then I can go, is that the same as what you're claiming? Because I hear Muslims claiming that the Quran actually says, go out and explore the world. And I don't think it says it in the way that they really mean, or the way I would, which mean critically evaluate everything. Because the man that you were speaking to here had a circular argument. His argument was, hey, you can only come to Allah, Allah will only give you the foresight if you believe in Allah. So it's like kind of circular. That's not a good argument for that sort of belief. So it's go out and find it. But if there is something in the Quran that literally says what I've said, I'll be going, oh, that's interesting, because I'm about 35% through now, and nowhere so far has it said that to me, that people are free to go out and question everything that's in the Quran. And almost be like a non-believer.
No. In fact, what's happening now with the most of the Muslims now, because they see that the danger or the pressure on them to reread it or maybe to renew it or reform it somehow. So they come with this argument now. It's like exactly with the so unfortunately, if you want a specification in the Quran, you're not going to get it. It's vague. It's all about ideas. It's even the way.
You and I agree with that, but there are people here who will interpret it very strictly.
That's fine. I mean, and even but let's forget about religion. I mean,
you made the good point that he asked. You made a good point. You essentially asked why, in a sense, and I'll paraphrase what you said, why are most people on the planet religious? You didn't use those words, but you kind of asked that question.
Forget about religion. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about God. I mean, why we have to take the word God just from religion? What if I just come to you and tell you what I think about God? Forget Christianity. The God of Christianity is wrong. God of Islam is wrong. Monotheism, all polytheists, all wrong. So what's the idea?
I mean, you get a lot of New Age spirituality which say like God is you, God is me, God is nature, God is like. That's why when you let's just say if you're arguing or debating something, you can never be like, I don't believe in God, because what is God? First of all, someone has to be like. So that's why an atheist can't ever debate the fact that God isn't real. Someone has to come and be like, this is what I believe, and we're like, okay, cool. What is it that you believe? So if you define God, then we can discuss it. Do you know what I mean? We can't discuss.
Okay, to me, I think which is the deistic point of view, is that God is the only thing that makes you think objectively.
Why do you think?
If you want to define.
Why do you think?
No, it's a hypothesis.
No, I know, but why do you
say that as opposed to your brain? Why isn't it just your brain and the combination of matter in your brain?
I can explain to you maybe because I was born in place, temperature, genetic, traveling, experience.
How does that in any way show that God is the author of it?
I don't know.
So you know what I mean? Why
So you're making a claim that you can't back up. I could say it's Odin that helps me think logically. Is that a fair statement?
I think okay. We can discuss it. Everything is okay. Everything
You can, but we want to narrow down, because if we could discuss everything in the whole world, and that probably wouldn't be useful, because it's a comic book character.
What do you mean by narrow it down? Narrow it down to what?
Say again.
What it is, that feeling, that makes
When you make a claim,
This is the thing that
you seem to want to have a God of some sort that you are not entirely sure what its properties are. My question first is, if there is such a God, and you don't know its properties, why would you believe in that? Because the properties, is it here, is it up there, is it part of the tree? Tell me what you're talking
about. The properties of God, my God, it's the elemental database that makes all the possibilities true.
Isn't that consciousness?
Yes, could be.
But that's not the same as God, is it?
Could be. No. Okay. What do you mean by God by monotheism? Or God?
I'm asking you.
No, it's different.
Good.
Yes.
So,
it could be.
consciousness could be the way that we are rational.
Yeah. How you measure consciousness?
So you're going a step further. You're saying no, but it could be a God. You need to say why you think that, because you're going a step further.
I'll tell you why. There's two propositions. It's either it's going to be just infinity without me rationalize actually what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing, or I would say, you know what, all the experiences or the limited experiences actually is in the head of God. it's reflecting that that experience that I'm having in it. Because otherwise, my experience now telling me that, for example, this is a rock, this is grass, this is nothing necessitates me thinking that way. Nothing necessitates even you thinking this way, that there's no God. The process of thinking is the only thing unique that we can,
Do you think thinking is a product of God?
It could be, potentially.
Could it not just be part of the product of our brain?
Oh, you know what?
Because if we damage our brain, do we still think the same way?
No.
So it's
That's
likely,
what you think.
it's not impossible, but it's likely
but the
that thinking is directly related to our brain.
Okay, well, how about the river? It's possible. I'm not negating that.
Well, we
but how about the
demonstrate
rivers?
it. What about
do you think matter, just matter itself, it could generate thinking?
Could matter generate thinking?
Yeah, my problem is with the matter, it's not with the consciousness.
No, but that's the thing.
Okay, but people like us will get to a point where we say we don't know. Consciousness is a hard problem. We don't know how consciousness and the brain interact. We don't know. But then you want to go, hang on a moment, that's a hard problem, but I want to insert something there to possibly make me feel good, which is a God of some kind.
It could be makes you feel
I'm
good.
saying to you that may not be a rational position to hold. Just because you don't know, don't go and insert something there to feel good. We will argue
that'd be an argument from ignorance.
It's not to say you're ignorant.
Yeah, no,
it's okay, that's fine. So
People insert things when they don't know, and some of us go, don't insert things until we can find out. When we find out something, then we are more rational to go, that's probably true. Until that point, we go, we don't know. That's our best answer.
And you don't know, right?
What?
You don't know, right? You don't know God. You don't know what consciousness is.
We don't know how consciousness comes into being, how it's connected to the brain.
But are you sure? So do you know that you don't know?
Do I know that I don't know?
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain I don't know, because otherwise I'd have that information.
Is that knowledge?
It's very conceptual.
Now you go off on a point. How is this useful?
Isn't that knowledge? Now you're telling me you don't know me. Is that knowledge?
Well, like Descartes says, like je suis, therefore.
Here's our resident.
So, for example,
yes, you are. He's our resident philosophical expert. He will be able to explain this. You should go off on a tangent here that I'm not sure is coming. You made a claim that you think there's a God. When we press you a little bit on that, now you go off on all kinds of tangents that aren't related. If you say there's some kind of a God, why do you say that, and how do we know that that's true? And if you're plugging a gap because we don't know something, that's maybe not a rational position to hold. That's all I'm saying.
But this is what I'm telling you. Now you call your ignorance is an ignorance and you don't know. Is that knowledge?
We can't know everything. It's a lack of knowledge.
I already showed you the definition of knowledge.
But that's knowledge. But that's knowledge.
Knowledge is of something I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't know, and this is certain to you. You don't know.
Did I ever say it was a certainty?
No, it's not a certainty, but it's somehow you're comfortable. What do you mean by
I'm comfortable that
Who cares about useful?
I'm comfortable that there's things I don't know.
Why do we make it useful and tangible and everything material? Forget about useful.
Because that's how we use it in the real
Let's
world.
talk rational. You're talking rationally, right?
That would be useful.
You don't know.
I don't know.
You know you don't know? You know.
I'm fairly certain that I don't know certain things, yes.
Perfect. And that's knowledge?
It's a lack of
knowledge, I would say.
And that's lack of knowledge, is it, what is it? Is it knowledge? Is it?
It's not knowing. It's not knowing. It's the opposite of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge is lack of knowledge.
You're not making out that we know. We don't make out we know. There's what we know and what we don't know.
But to me, that's kind of knowledge, isn't it?
It's no
Step in here.
Yeah, please, yeah. No,
I
of
feel
course,
he's going all over the place, so you help us. He really knows more.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my process is
I think you're a little bit.
Okay, I'll try.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on here is quite interesting, where a lot of these conversations tend to get bogged down. I'll adopt a view that a lot of our problems are to do with language and how we use language. So I can see this, and knowledge. People have written whole books. They spent their whole lives trying to figure out what we mean by knowledge. So in a sense, it's quite amusing. You guys just, and I can see you sort of getting deeper and deeper deeper into the swamp. So, you know, the first thing is, well, one approach to, you know, typical sort of philosopher getting out of things is say, what do you mean by? But I mean, that's one way. But another way of, oh, don't, no, please don't.
It's useful for us. I'll put it on YouTube because
no, don't. I'll just I do dry up with cameras. But all right, you know, do it.
this is really useful. This will help people. Who can learn something.
Well,
I can learn something.
If I start talking nonsense, just wipe it.
No, that's fine.
I'll give you a little tap.
If you don't feel comfortable about it, so you know, most important thing that we understand before the YouTube.
No, I've done this before on podcast. I just dry up when I know there's a camera.
Okay.
So if you're doing it surreptitiously. Anyway, where were we?
Philosophy background that we can.
No, I haven't really. I'm just a dabbler. Probably know more than you guys.
Yeah. So now knowledge. Yeah.
So the where was I? So I was trying to pull out the observation that the conversation's reached a fairly common point where sometimes it can get very heated because everybody thinks they know what something means and they're all talking about something else, so they're all kind of going like that. So sometimes the starting point is just to bring out into the open, how do we use the word knowledge? I'm not going to say what do we mean by knowledge. The formulation, how do we use, I always find it is a more sort of comfortable way of doing it. So, I mean, I've had this conversation on Paul Williams' blog a few weeks ago, and we were talking about certainty, and I sat there thinking, I came up with about half a dozen different uses of how we use the word to know. So I know I've got a handkerchief in my pocket. I know 2 + 2 = 4. I know that a number 24 bus will be going down Park Lane in 10 minutes. Probably won't, but just an example. So when you sort of pick out what's going on when we use the word know in those sentences, they're actually very, very different kinds of activity. And in fact, I was talking to a friend who's learning Italian last week, and she says, and I know this from my O-level French, that there's at least 2 different ways of saying no in French and Italian, savoir and connaître. But we only have one word, so that's kind of interesting. So there's
Savoir and connaître.
Yeah. So other languages.
Can you address his sort of points around knowledge? Because he wants to.
I was getting there.
Oh, okay.
So where I came in was you were asking whether it's Rob, isn't it? Can be certain about his fallibility. So in fact, the conversation I had with Paul and started off on this notion of certainty because I'll come up front. My position is essentially agnostic, but atheist agnostic in the sense that I see no particular reason to believe in what people describe as a God, but there's no way I can prove it either way. So I have to remain agnostic.
Would you not consider yourself a weak atheist in that case?
That's if you want to put it like that, but I think agnosticism is the word I want to hang on to because it's essentially describes the boundaries of what I believe that there are boundaries of human knowledge. So the only, if you like, debate I want to have with religious folk is when they claim certainty, and certainly because I think an awful lot of human social problems arise from that, and it's not just religion, it's in politics and it's in all sorts of fields where people claim certainty. So the debate sort of, in my mind, kind of comes back to under what circumstances do we have any right to claim certainty about something, and that being the case, and you know, if you like, what backs up my agnostic point of view. Essentially, the only certainty that we can have, apart from Descartes' je pense, I think therefore I am. So there's a sense in which we can be certain about something going on, if you like, as to whether you people are there or anything like that. But there is something going on. And the other thing is that I'm fallible. I know that I'm wrong. I'm absolutely certain that I'm wrong. I do it all the time. I'm completely wrong. Completely wrong most of the time.
Is this certainty?
Sorry?
Is this certainty?
I know. Yeah, because it's based on my direct evidence. And we can all give so many examples where we're wrong about it. Unless you're some kind of deranged person who is absolutely convinced they're right
So
most normal human people would admit that quite a lot of the time they're wrong.
So do you agree now, in this case, certainty doesn't mean anything? So that the word certainty, as we define it in English, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it does. It's those two uses, and probably a proper philosopher will come up with some other areas of certainty. You could also argue that, for example, it doesn't really make any sense. I mean, some absolute skeptics will cast doubt on whether that railing is there. And I think it was Dr. Johnson who famously kicked the stone and said, I prove it thus, to Bishop Berkeley, who said that everything is ideas in God's mind.
You believe in, for example, the laws of logic. Do you believe in self-attesting truths? Or do you think there's certainty in those?
See, there's another fascinating area which, again, I just dabbled in, but you say something like the laws of logic. Now, as far as I can see, there are varying views on this. So, is logic built into the universe somehow? So when we pick up what we call the laws of logic, Aristotle came up with three in particular, non-contradiction and so on and so forth. So they seem very fair. I mean, they're about as basic as you can get. But curiously, I'm thinking, actually, what we find in quantum mechanics probably goes against that. You know, I mean, Schrodinger's cat, is it a dead cat or a live cat? I don't know.
Isn't that, but that's at the quantum level as opposed to our macro level.
So does logic only work at our macro level? So, I mean, there is such a thing.
Yes.
There is such a thing as quantum logic.
Yes, yeah.
And in fact, when you dig into it a bit more, you see there's dozens of different logics. There's all sorts of logics. I mean, I worked in computer science, so I know about fuzzy logics and n-valued logic. So n-valued logic, you can have, you know, any number of logics. You have traditional Aristotelian syllogistic logic. You can have all sorts. Look them up on Wikipedia. But in other words, there are loads of logics. So what does that tell us? Are they really?
And in a conversation like this, though, would you consider the three laws of logic, to use that term? Would that be what we are foundationally based on when we open our mouths and have a conversation?
It depends what we're talking about, doesn't it? Because it seems to me that the logic is almost like a toolkit, as far as I can tell. So here you are. As a debater or a logician, you have a toolkit. Of course, most people really think the Aristotelian toolkit is the only one going. But it's quite interesting. When you start to analyse or think about conversations about the origins of the universe, especially given that, for example, there is such a thing as quantum logic, I wonder if, you know, we're just mistaken in using something like Aristotelian logic to talk about things like a beginning, you know, does it have a beginning, and, you know, if it doesn't have a beginning, then it must be infinite, and then using logic to sort of
I agree.
infinity
We could be at the limit
possible.
of our
So
philosophical.
that's about as far as I've got.
Makes sense.
Which is really.
But what Tariq is kind of saying, if I paraphrase it, tell me if I'm wrong, is that because we don't have a level of certainty, we are justified in putting something in that we think might be true without evidence, and maybe because it makes us feel good. Would that be somewhat reasonable?
So, from that, would I be right in saying in a sense, we agree in that you're not certain about your assertion? For you, it feels a comfortable way of putting together an explanation of the world.
No,
would that be true, or would you claim certainty?
No, I don't. I mean, when you tell me, for example, there's a logic, you know, like for example, I'm an engineer, I'm not a philosopher, and I know when I go to my lab, for example, and I go and use the logic that we know, right? And I see it by experiment, by observation, 1,000 times, it works for me, right? But that doesn't mean that, I mean, how is I gonna say that? Like if I know all the elements and the process of these thoughts and reality, or why I call it certainty or reality, that doesn't mean I can reproduce that reality or make it true in obsolete thinking or obsolete term. You know what I mean? It's like if I know now, for example, all the atoms of rock, right, and every single thing in him, and I'm gonna go on and you know, copy the subconscious and subconscious of him. Okay. I cannot reproduce him in a way.
Oh,
you know
right,
what I mean?
okay, yeah.
Maybe I can, but in
Which
which
is maybe
way?
not at the technology to do that yet.
You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe in the future. But even in the future, I mean, the experiment, I mean, Rob as specific as character, as human, as the experiment that I'm witnessing now with all this, it's so unique in a way. If I'm gonna go and find out all the truth and the equations and the facts and the science of Rob and this, doesn't mean that I can reproduce it somehow.
That may be true, but how does that relate to your inserting a God where we don't know and you want to feel comfortable with it? How's that helpful?
No, I'm not certain too. Because again, if I with certainty, there's no knowledge.
Right. So shouldn't the rational position be we don't know? So where we're talking about consciousness, how it interacts with the brain, how it comes into this reality, we don't know.
Yes, but my argument too is not knowing. Is it a knowing? It's a knowing.
How is that helpful to use those terms? When you open your mouth and use those sentences, how does that advance our
To me, it shouldn't be a
conversation?
That's fine. I mean, if it's not doesn't help me, that's okay. I'm comfortable with my phrasiness.
Should we? Okay, going back to that point, should we move towards what we can find out is true, or should we just accept things randomly? Because when I have that you keep using that term of like, well, we shouldn't really paraphrase. We shouldn't really try and find out what's true. That's not the words you use, but that's the assumption I'm taking from
maybe knowledge itself. It's like when you go and you know, for example, and you read all the books in the world. Let's say, for example, now you know everything in this universe, in chemicals and engineering and science and theology and philosophy, everything, and that makes you knowledgeable. That makes you the absolute.
All right, let me ask it to you the other way around.
Yeah.
If I knew all of that, do you think I would be in a better place to live a more fulfilled life, to interact with other people better, to help people better? Do you think so? Or do you think if I was ignorant, that would be better? Or are they even?
No. Socially, yes. Yeah, socially.
I would suggest to you in every way you can possibly think of, the more knowledge we have, the better we can make decisions, and therefore, hopefully, not always.
Rob, you always talk about social concepts. You know, we're always talking about how you're going to feel better, being better, and I told you about that. I told you the last time. Imagine now, we will be the best, we will throw up all this theology and monotheism and religion in the world, and we're going to be mature enough not to fight each other, and we'll be healthier, and we will live forever. And that's a possibility, by the way. Like if you go now, it's possible. We're not going to be sick. We will live forever. Everybody of us is going to have as much of stars, Earth, galaxies in the world. So what?
Your point is so what?
So what?
Yes, we had this discussion before, and I don't understand why you would say so what. Would you not want to have the best that you and every other living creature on this universe could possibly have?
It's a valid objective. It's a valid dream. It's a valid and maybe
probably impossible. But I'll go with your thought experiment. And your question is so what?
So what?
And maybe it sounds to me like you haven't really thought about that in order to say the word so what.
Yes, no.
And here's why I say that.
Yeah.
Do you think it's better to have all of the stuff we talked about or to live in abject misery with every creature, to use Sam Harris's term, living the worst possible misery possible?
No,
what do you think is better?
You don't have to ask these questions. Of course the first one.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So your question in a sense answers itself. Because you went so what?
Yeah, because you put it in a social concept. That's the problem.
Any concept. What other concept do you want to talk about?
Let's go beyond the social concept. Like he told you actually. Now the moment we put words in your mouth, correct me if I'm wrong, you're fallible. Because language itself is fallible.
I understand that, but you're going to a very high level that human beings don't normally talk about except in philosophy. I'm talking about in the real world where all of us interact.
No, the real world.
Should we look for what's true or likely true?
Yes.
Do you think that's helpful to do that?
I think it's helpful.
Okay. That's all we need to look for that. And so your so what, in a sense, to me, doesn't sound a logical question. In a sense, if you agree that we need to look for truth and it's helpful, that's all we need to do those things. We can add bits on, but to me that sounds like good enough reasons to follow that procedure.
So let's conclude here. Like what you're trying to tell me here, because at the beginning I told you, like for you, socially, or what you call Sam Harris, Harris, I know he's very good, but I would negate a lot of things that he was saying because he put it in the context that it fits the social reality that we live in, right? Like there's no God, blah 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 blah.
What other context should we put it in? If not
No. He's good.
context
He's
that we
good
live
with
in.
the social because maybe in different, maybe 500 years ago, people would laugh at him. 1,000 years from now, maybe people would laugh at him. So because the whole thing is going to be different.
Do you think, using him as an example, do you think he's got, as best we can, giving the best information we know of today in 2016?
But
does it matter whether we'll find something new in 10,016?
No, I tell you, to me, he's better than a lot of religious people, but he has his own biased opinion.
We all agree that we have bias.
Yes.
If we put that aside,
Yes. No.
most atheists, and I don't say all of them,
So-
tend to want to go towards truth, and I'm not sure that that's what theist wants to do.
I know where you want to go because you want to get to conclusion. Your mind is always going to get to
I want to
conclusion.
find out what's true. Yes,
What's true.
Call me a fundamental
but
truth
I ask you,
seeker.
truth, yeah. But I told
Are you the same or not?
He's a philosopher here. Maybe not. He gave us some ideas about knowledge. Now, how about the truth? What do you mean by truth? Which truth?
That which comports with
Is it your
reality.
truth or my truth? Or his truth?
There's no such thing. Truth is what best corresponds
Exactly.
with reality.
Thank you. That's the best. That's a decent definition that we can
But
use in reality.
but you give the truth now a generic term where it could fit to everybody here.
Of course, true is
That would
true
be
to
a useful
everyone.
thing to do, isn't it? If I give a truth and you give what you think is truth,
isn't it?
Again, it's like going back to Descartes. Like we could be all like crazy people in a mental institute thinking we're having a rational conversation as speakers' corners. We could be, but the thing is like I know I'm not having that experience. I'm surrounded by people. We can discuss and be like, we're here, right, having this conversation. So we can therefore like all agree that the truth in the reality is that we are human beings gathered here in what we call this reality. I mean, you guys might not be real. I mean, you could get into some abstract thinking in that sense, but what's the point of thinking like that apart from purely philosophical terms if it's not getting to the base of what it is that we actually experience as a people or as a
it's
person?
fun to talk about, but as people said, and I feel a few other people, and not to disrespect, because I'm very much into philosophy and I can learn a lot from Andy. It is Andy, isn't it? Yeah. I can learn a lot from Andy. But sometimes it's like, so what? We live in this world. We don't operate as if things aren't real. We don't operate as if there aren't objective truths to be known. Like I said to you, gravity. For all intents and purposes, gravity is an objective truth on this planet. If you can find me some place on this planet where gravity doesn't interact, I'd be interested to see that. So we can assume, as an example, that gravity is an objective truth in the sense that we talk about just here in the street, not philosophical, I grant you, but just in the street. So you wouldn't go to the top of the building there and go, I don't know if gravity's a truth, and jump his chest. We can test it, and we have, and it stands up every single place, 100% of our tests, except maybe in exceptional circumstance in quantum gravity, blah, blah, blah. The normal reality. So there are objective truths, and this is the thing that I see you don't want to accept, is that there are objective truths, and we can move towards them. You kind of go, I'm not sure if it's all true, who cares, really? That's what the message I'm kind of getting from you. And I'm on the opposite end of that, going, it's very important we find out what's true, and let's find a way to go towards it, or ways.
Okay, but
Maybe I'm fundamentalist.
I think
you might be right.
No. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I'm not really not accepting or accepting, because accepting or not accepting, back again to you. As a brain, as a human being, we need to be in comfort zone. Like you want to know me, for example, what I am. I mean, and then you build up a case, and you try to maybe prove something or disapprove something. That's fine. But the point is, reading all the books or knowing, as you say, for example, or now, for example, you talk about Sam Harris. He's
He's got some thoughts on some things. He's not my God. He's just a person that's written some things. I agree with some. I don't agree with others.
Right. But
That's an example.
That's
Richard
fine.
Dawkins.
That's fine.
Dalai Lama. Whoever.
But when he was when he was speaking about religion, it's not because I'm coming from the Muslim background, but actually because I was living in, for example, in Iraq back then specifically, and he was telling me a story about Iraq, and I was there. I haven't
What story is it? People quote people, and I've read all his books. So if you're going to say that, then quote exactly what you're talking about, because I know what he says.
Oh, you know what he says? Okay,
Yes, so
I tell you what he says.
Go ahead.
He says that, for example, Uday, the sons of Saddam, for example, he would crash any wedding, and he grab the groom and he just go and rape her and kill her. I've never seen him, right? But I've never heard of this story before, because I know the families there, and I know everybody getting wedding, and, right? I've never heard of, for example, Saddam. He has a castle with dolphins swimming. I've never heard of that. And even when, you know what I mean? It's like people, they're trying to make a point by bringing some stories that they don't know about. And he's very convincing, by the way he talks, and the way so that's make me like if you give me some information like that, I would put question mark. How about the other information they're giving me? Is it true or is not true? Is it rational? Yes, maybe it's rational. Maybe it fits me. You know, it served me somehow within my context, right?
You could say,
it's okay.
You could say, why would he tell that story in the first place if he's not trying to purport a certain point? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
it's to back you up. Like, so he obviously has an agenda, whether it be true that what he's saying or whether
Yeah,
it's
but that's important, isn't it? What's true. So
no, of course.
if we've got, which I think we do, some reports of how sadistic that guy was,
Sure.
that sort of thing happened. The fact that you don't personally know somebody, it's a big country, it's quite possible he did that regularly in places you don't know or with people you're not aware of.
No, I'll tell you why I'm. So he was in my high school. I was in high school. His son, who was in my school, high school.
Okay, this
My own
sadistic guy that we're
experience,
talking about. Yes, yes.
So my own experience with this guy, yes, he killed someone. I know that for sure because I know that guy, right? So that's fine. He killed someone. He's a killer. He's sadistics maybe. He has issues, yes, but he would never go and rape. Crashing a wedding and rape the groom. No, I haven't heard, because such incidents in a society like in Iraq, you will hear about it right away. You would hear about it.
Or
He
or
didn't.
it could be.
So I'm not saying, again, to be honest, there's no 100%. Maybe he's done it secretly, I don't know. But for sure, the way he said it, Sam Harris, he was sure about it. And he's trying to make a point, giving you this example.
Okay,
right?
so the fact that you think he's sure, do you think he made it up? Do you think he...
No.
Why do you think he said that?
No, he's
Did he pick it
like
out of
any
the air?
those
Or?
religious people. Like when those religious people also, they come to you and tell you, I believe this and this and that, because he's trying and
Do you know what book that was in?
No, I think it was.
It was The Moral Landscape. It was to talk about morality. That's what it was. It was nothing to do with religion per se. It was to demonstrate that's who's... What's his proper name? Huda. They're saying is a quote bad guy.
Yeah.
And that was the point of the example.
But nobody even
How
addressed
can
it
we
to...
invade them if we don't make them bad guys?
No,
Because they were
that's
already
fine.
bad guys before we invaded.
How we invade them without making them...
Different point. We'll come to that. Hang on.
Okay, so the point is, anyone can say something even if he's honest about it unknowingly. Okay, do you agree with that? Like
do what?
Like he was honest. He was honest about bringing you this case. You know, the case of, you know what?
Who
No
are saying
religion, or
picking up somebody and raping them from a...
points. Doesn't matter what's his point. Let's say tomorrow Sam Harris, he becomes a Muslim, and he's gonna bring you a story. Again, he's fallible. You know what I mean?
Correct.
You know what I mean?
go according to what they actually say, not who they are.
So I have also some doubt about other information he was saying about other things, right? But also I don't know about, I cannot, there's no way that I don't have the tools to go just and test every single fact he was talking about.
Sure.
Then that makes him, but he's very influential. Like a lot of people follow him, I think you too, right?
I've read his books, yes.
Right. The difference maybe between you and me, such guy when I really go objectively and trying to test what he's saying. And I try to put myself through that sort of contest, and I just try to test it. And what he's saying is I don't know. He says a lot of good things, right? If you want to go by the social context, yes.
But that's the thing. Like he's not a god. I mean, he obviously says good things and bad things. So you, as a skeptic, should take what the true things that he says and put away the bad things. Obviously, we can't test everything that anyone says. I mean, like yourself being an atheist, you'd adhere to a lot of scientific teachings. The majority of us probably haven't done any of the experiments, if you know what I mean.
Correct.
But we can assert the and like use kind of rationality
So
to
evolution is
assume
true, cosmology, it's the best information we currently have. If that changed tomorrow and somebody found out that evolution is not true, I would accept it like that. I wouldn't go, oh my God, I've got to hold on to evolution because I like it so much. I would give it up immediately.
That's one thing that say like atheism has like as a good standpoint is we're
the
quite...
problem that you have, Guy. I mean, I think you still have that influence of the God of monotheism, which is the God who talked to Abraham and talked to Muhammad.
You say we have an influence.
Yes.
How so?
Because the way you talk, maybe my opinion. Okay, maybe you have that influence. You just forget about that God. Forget about it. So let's talk about consciousness. Let's talk about truth, knowledge. How you can distinguish
What should we forget about? Sorry, I wasn't clear what you said forget about. You said forget about it, put it more.
God of monotheism, God of polytheism.
I would love to forget about it. The problem is my co-inhabitants on this planet, 85 to 90% of them believe in this stuff.
Oh, so your mission now is to change that?
And it hinders us as well.
Thank you.
Like,
and
example,
beliefs have got
my
consequences.
mum suffers.
You don't seem to realize that beliefs have got consequences. If we were all Jains, have you heard of the religion of Jainism? Its number one tenet is the non-injury of all living beings. If we were all Jains, no problem, because nobody could claim to be a Jain and then hurt or injure any living being.
I'd argue that there's still something.
Rob, I'm going to ask you.
So,
where did you get this information from? Sam Harris.
No, from the internet. I'm going to look up what is Jainism about, what are their tenets, what do they believe.
Good. So your source of information that you went through, is it fallible? Not fallible?
Of course it is. Everything's fallible in that argument.
So now, but now you sound that you are very comfortable, because I have my friend, he's Jan, and he explained to me. I went to him with him to his temple, whatever, and I was trying to go through experience, which is they fast for 8 days, for 20 days, just water fasting. So just to be in that experience. So I know a little bit more, which is real experience, but I don't claim that I know about Jainism. But you claim here that you know too much about Jainism.
What did I claim? Can we rewind the tape?
They're very
What did I say? Because you're not listening. What did I actually say? No. What did I say?
You say they are very, very peaceful in the way they don't even harm any creature.
Right. He said take Jainism for example.
Right. That's fine. But you are sure about this information?
That's what it says. Yes, I'm sure about that information. You keep going back to this I'm sure business.
Okay. Yes, that's right.
And I don't think that's a useful question to ask in this concept. You can keep asking it if you like, but you sound a bit like a presuppositionalist, which you might not know what that term is.
Skeptical. Yeah.
That's fine. But if you keep asking, are you sure about everything, then we go back to the point of we almost don't know apart from that we exist.
Yeah.
That is not a useful way to have a conversation. So when I say to you, Jainism's number one tenet is the non-injury of all living beings, I'm fairly certain of that. You can take that as truth. We can look it up here together. If it shows that it is, would you accept it? Do you think I'm perhaps not being... I'm just not sure why you keep asking this question. It's almost like you think I'm either not sure or I'm making it up or maybe it's not true or something, and it doesn't help us move the conversation forward to ask the question, are you certain? Are you certain? That doesn't help us in any way.
No, and my point is somehow you are not different from any other religions because you have also an agenda. It's a good agenda. You agree?
Yes, my agenda is to find out what's true.
That's fine.
Yes.
That's it. But
is
that knowledge? Is that knowledge? Is that
yes,
truth?
that's knowledge.
That's knowledge
Yes.
and that's truth?
Yes.
The thing with
If you define it this way, what do you think, Danny? Do you think that's how we define knowledge or truth? I mean, I don't know, Rob. I'm not saying.
No. I'm a little bit, and my apologies. I'm a little bit frustrated because you keep going back to metaphysical things when we have a conversation. When I ask you, you say Sam Harris is, you don't believe certain things. Then you make a claim about certain things. When I say to you that that's probably true, now you back away, and then you. So whenever we get to a point where, like, I'm pressing you a little bit to explain why you believe something or why you make a statement, then you back away and you go, oh, do we know anything's true? It's like, just all I'm asking is either to think about something, in which case we don't necessarily, or let's have a discussion because you've got a reason why you believe something. I could be wrong about Jainism. I could be reading that and I'm actually dyslexic and it doesn't say that. But as far as I know, my faculties are working, so I go from a point of I'm reasonably certain that Jainism's number one tenet is the non-injury of all things. So when you say to me, are you sure am I certain? I'm like, this is not helpful in a conversation. It doesn't make sense. Because I could do the same to you. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And then like we don't get anywhere. Yeah?
So yes, I agree with you. You're right. So now, the reason why I'm saying that, I can tell you why I think that way because I read a little bit about neuroscience. Not too much. I'm not neuroscience.
Sorry, what are we talking about? Jainism or neuroscience now?
No. You asked me.
Jump around a little bit, so I'm not sure what you're talking about.
No. Forget about Jainism. You're right. Sam Harris is right. Let's move on. Okay. Now we're talking about. You told me that I'm trying to escape from that reality. Where is that belief came from? I'll tell you from where. I can give you the books, and I can give you the name and the sources, and you can go and read it by yourself.
What books is that?
I'll tell you. Neuroscience. How your brain works.
Yes.
Okay. Is that okay? Is it valid science?
Yes.
Good. Perfect. And Sam Harris, he claims that he's a neuroscientist. He has a PhD in neuroscience, right?
Correct.
But he's not an academic neuroscientist.
What is an academic neuroscientist?
Academic means I am now I'm biomed engineer. I go and I fix machines, medical machines, right? When you draw the blood, they send it to the lab. I do this. My information, my engineering degree, it was a mechanical degree. But I shift from that. How do you call me now? Am I a mechanical engineer or I'm a biomed engineer?
Those are two different things.
That's two different things. For 20 years, I've been doing biomedical engineer, but I don't have a degree in biomedical engineer. I have a degree in mechanical engineer.
Right.
Okay. So that makes me, I am biomedical by practice. I'm practicing every day now. I know a lot about lab and machines in the lab than any other biomedical engineer, PhD biomedical engineer who studied maybe 10 years. I'm just, you know what I mean.
Right, so you're very knowledgeable in bioengineering. Yep.
Practically.
How does that relate to Sam Harris?
Okay. Sam Harris, he says that he has a PhD in neuroscience.
Yes.
But he doesn't have a lab experiment
He's done lab experiments. Part of his PhD was doing lab experiments.
Right.
He did a particular lab experiment on belief.
Yeah, but his books, the books that he read and he wrote, and most of the people they read it.
Yes.
Those books not based on neuroscience, does it?
Yes, he's basing part of it on his studies in neuroscience.
Okay. My neuroscience source, I can give you. I can give you Michael Gazzaniga, who has a PhD in neuroscience, and he spent all his life writing down neuroscience experiments. That makes him academic. He's not has the title of the PhD. He wrote in neuroscience. I would trust Michael Gazzaniga when it comes to neuroscience rather than Sam Harris. And if Sam Harris wants to talk about theology, right? Then he's not theologian because I don't know the way his methodology of writing. He's not factual about what he's telling you. He gives you examples. He gives you sometimes emotional triggers about certain things, but he doesn't give you factual.
Okay, let me ask you a question because I think you're making a slight mistake.
Yes.
In the following sense. Is it important what the title of it or the knowledge of somebody is, or is it important what they claim?
No, it's important what they claim based on experiment.
Sure.
Right?
Could
he has to tell me what's the experiment is.
So it's in philosophical terms, it's called an appeal to authority, and there's a lovely guy here I'll introduce him to who's the master of appeal to authority. It's a fallacy in the following sense. In other words, it's a mistake in thinking in the following sense. if we claim that because somebody is knowledgeable, therefore they are true, whatever they say is true, that's a fallacy. So what we should do is look at what they claim, not who they are. Because it's possible that a homeless person could come up with something very true that a neuroscientist would not know, or would say the opposite. So we evaluate claims, we don't evaluate people's PhDs or whatever the case is. So between Sam Harris and your neuroscientist, I would evaluate what they both say and see if we can find out what is true.
Exactly.
Good. So that's the difference to what you're saying. You were saying because your neuroscientist guy has done more papers, therefore you'll trust him more. And I'm saying that's a fallacy in thinking. Think of it rather as they're both knowledgeable people. Maybe this guy's done more work, and it might be that it's truer, whatever he's saying, but we need to evaluate what they say. And then we can go, he says X, he says Y, what else, who says what, can we find out which one is true? I would suggest that's a more rational position to hold.
Absolutely, no, I agree. What we're saying is true. However, how would I know? Unless if I'm going to go and do the experiment by myself. The only thing that I know by testimony, by news, by the book itself, by the people that I know, the neuroscientists, for example, for example, now when we had philosophical issue, why we called Andy, because we assume that he's a philosopher, right?
Okay, so here's the answer to your question. I want to put it on the video if I can.
Yeah.
You've asked, how do we know? I don't know if you can focus in there. That's knowledge. And if you're watching this video, Tarek has asked a very important question. How do we find out what's true? And knowledge, or the pursuit of knowledge, using this definition which I got off the internet, I think would be a good way of doing it. This is a way to evaluate two separate claims. There's many tools within this, but this I would suggest is a way to do.
Okay.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
Rob,
good to speak to you again.
Thank you very much.
Nice one. Good to meet you.
So we'll see this one on the TV. We'll be famous.
Put it up.
Nature is the Governor TV.
What's that?
Nature is the Governor TV.
Nature is the Governor TV.
Yeah,
Nature?
Speaker's Corner. Nature is the Governor TV.
Is that on
Speaker's
YouTube?
Corner. Yeah, it's up there now, yeah.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Let me
I've just done a new one, so my one will be Speaker's Corner UK. So these videos I'll put on Speaker's Corner UK.
Nice one.
No, I think you have to. I mean, it's very healthy to go and talk to or bring some rational Muslims who is quiet, not emotional, and put this one too.
Spell it for me, Johnny. What's
Nature.
the name? Nature. Nature.
Nature. Is the Governor. Gover.
Ner. Nature is the Governor. Like
TV. Speaker's Corner.
Is that your channel name?
That's it. Nature is the Governor. TV. Speaker's Corner. And it should come up there.
Sweet. Cool, buddy.
Alright, nice one. Sweet. Good to see you. I'll see you out on the rounds.
Yes, indeed.
Again, I'm going to ask it for you.
Yes.
Nature is the Governor?
Yeah.
Yes, here it
is. The Governor.
TV.
Okay.
Alright, sweet. I'll catch you later. Yeah, nice one. Sweet. I look forward to that one.
Good stuff, buddy. Yeah, I'll put yours up as well.